my name is Dave Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. I've got some data on rents and there's a crisis in the rental sector. It really is getting out of control. Rents are going up considerably higher than inflation. And bearing in mind, rent is one of your largest bills that you have. It's really going to impact people for a long time. Also, if your rent increases, it's unlikely that it will go back down. It's likely that it will stay that level. Unlike fuel, petrol, and those sorts of things that are volatile and go up and down. Once you have a rental increase, it's there to stay. So this is a problem. We're going to talk about why this is happening, how bad it actually is, and is there an opportunity for some landlords, and hopefully could this convince some people to stay in the market, because it's a landlord exodus that is causing a lot of the problems here. So before we jump into this, if you're new around here and you haven't done it already, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 33,000 subscribers. We should hit that very soon. And let's get some more views on this content by smashing like, tickling like, doing something to that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm and helps the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So what's going on? Well, there is a real sentiment with landlords that some have just had enough. It was tough under the Conservatives and it's got tougher under Labour. Now, landlords, I understand when we do content like this, there are lots of people that dislike landlords. They just don't like them and they have a bad reputation. And that's because some landlords are rogues. There are bad quality landlords out there, particularly some of the big housing associations and councils are worse, if not considerably worse than some of the smaller landlords who actually have to get things sorted, or they can get in quite a lot of problems. So what is going on at the moment? Well, 50% of tenants at the moment are in what we call rent poverty, as in the percentage of their wages that is taken up by their rent means that they almost have nothing left at the end of the month. And that's not a great situation for anybody to be in. It's also not good for the landlord. You don't want your tenants stretched, because ultimately at some point that might get to a point where they just can't pay you the rent. And then how are you going to pay your mortgage and stuff like that? So it's not good for anyone. We want rents to be affordable. So what's driving landlords out of the market at the moment? Well, one of the biggest things is two different sections. You've got section 24 is what most landlords are saying is the reason why they're leaving. It's the tax. And the tax on a landlord is on the gross rent income, right? Lots of businesses, you're taxed on your profits. You get corporation tax. So I have a marketing agency, for example. We get taxed on the profits of the business, not on the turnover of the business. But landlords, they're taxed differently. So if a landlord is on a higher tax bracket, maybe they are on someone that earns more than 50 grand a year and they're nearly getting 50% tax, that's what they will pay on their rent. So if they get £1,000 in rent, they will get taxed, just round numbers, around about 500 quid, right? Now, let's just say they got 500 quid. The rent was that, the tax was that, and the mortgage was around 500 quid. They would have zero left at the end of the month. Now, for some landlords, it's worse. Now, you do get some tax allowances in that, but they're quite small. So I know in the comments, someone's going to go, well, you haven't explained that. I've used easy to understand numbers, and yes, there are some small allowances that landlords have, but they're not as big as a normal business. That's why landlords now buy in limited companies. But most rental property is owned in their personal name. The majority of my portfolio is in my personal name, and it's very hard to move that into a company because you have to sell it to your company at the market rate. You then got to pay stamp duty, capital gains tax. You've got to pay all these solicitors' fees again, and it gets very, very expensive. It's just not worth doing. So Section 24 is putting off a lot of landlords, and a lot of landlords surveyed at the moment are considering leaving due to Section 21 being abolished. That's no fault evictions. And now landlords are comfortable when that's in place, because if they need to get their property back quickly without having to go to court and all that kind of stuff, Section 21 allows them to give 2 months notice and get that property back. Now, the problem is some landlords have just used that in an unethical way to get rid of tenants, and then they remarket the property at hugely inflated rents, and they leave that person without anywhere to live. And the charities like Shelter and stuff are obviously not happy with that because it's unfair. And so because some people have used it unfairly, now it is looking like it's going to be abolished. So that means that right now, 56% of landlords surveyed are saying that they would potentially look to leave the market if this was abolished as well, because the tax and this and the capital gains tax and stamp duty going up, and all these things are just altogether just frustrating landlords, and they feel it's time to do other stuff. So how bad is the rental market at the moment? Well, there are twice as many tenants as rental properties at the moment. Twice as many people that need a rental property compared to what property exists. That means that some people, because of that, could become homeless, or it means that they might be living with family and friends on sofas and in unsuitable conditions, which is not great. So that means it's very hard. Now, when a property is advertised on Rightmove or Zoopla or on the market, whichever site people are using, Gumtree, there are some instances now where people are getting more than 200 applications for that one property. 200. Now imagine you're a tenant, you're trying to get a property, and you're in that sea of 200 people. Very hard to stand out in that scenario. You're going to have perfect references, a good credit rating, and if anything's not perfect, then you're going to find it even harder to get a property. And landlords are leaving in droves. 30% of landlords have quit over the last few years, and that means we've got less rental stock, but we've got more people that need to rent, and it's just a crisis that's pushing up rents. Now, how much are rents up at the moment? Rents are up at the moment this year 8.4% up. 8.4% up. Inflation's at 2.3%. This is just something that's going to continue. It was 10% last year. So rents are going absolutely through the roof. Now, if you are a landlord and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to leave because of Section 24, because of Section 21, because of other stuff that's happening in the market, well, this is potentially an opportunity because rents and yields are rising for landlords at the moment. So eventually that will counter your higher tax and the risk that you take potentially by not being able to get somebody out of your property. So as a landlord, I'm holding on to all of my properties. I've never sold one in my life. I have no intention of selling, but there are accidental landlords, and there are bigger landlords that are buying those properties off them and running these properties because yields are improving. So longer term, something does need to happen. We do need some policies that embrace landlords and support landlords and encourage them to get into the market, because what the tenant's perspective is right now is that we want the corporates to do it. But when you get these big corporate landlords, look it up, see what happens. There's a building in Croydon, 200-300 flats in a skyscraper. The majority of the properties are mouldy because it's been built so badly. Look at what happens with council properties when you rent from them and you get problems with mould and stuff like that. They don't act and don't get those resolved. Whereas a smaller landlord like myself, we have rules that are forced onto us, and if we don't, we get fined. That stuff is already in place. They're looking to make that stronger, but also have some policies that support the landlords and bring more into the market, because if you do that, then everyone benefits from that. You've also got landlords that take dilapidated properties that no one's living in. I just did that in Doncaster. You can see that on the early videos of this channel. We took a property that was empty for 2 years. We refurbed it, and now it's been rented out for 2 years, and happy tenants are living there now. So it made an extra rental property that was just vacant. So this is not great. It's not a great it's not a great thing at all for anybody, but there is opportunity if you are a landlord to stay in the market, because you're only going to see rents going up unless Labour do something to resolve this. And right now, all their policies are pushing more people out the market. Let me know your thoughts, questions, opinions in the comments below. Do smash like, do subscribe, check out all the other content on the channel, including this video right here.